So I wanted to talk to you a bit about your book, of course. But first, I just wanted to ask, what was it like growing up with dyslexia?
Oh, actually, I went to school in the 60s and early 70s, and I didn't know about dyslexia. It wasn't diagnosed as a problem then. So actually, all I was being told was I was lazy and stupid and couldn't read, and so I tried to cover and conceal everything. It wasn't until later years when my niece was diagnosed in school as being dyslexic. And I said, well, what's that? And she was telling me. And I said, that's not dyslexia, that's Ken Stewart. And I then later found out more about it. And dyslexia is either caused from a traumatic experience, like a severe strike to the head, which I had. But I had dyslexia before that. It was primary dyslexia, which usually focuses on men, the male of the family. And also, your reading ability is about a grade 4 level. As it turned out, I was in a motorcycle accident and had a severe strike to the head, and I lost my memory for a year and a half. And that turned out one of the best things that ever happened to me. I didn't see it at the time. But because of that, I was allowed to not read anymore because they seen a reason that I couldn't read because I couldn't remember the words or how to pronounce them. So I got to do everything orally, and when I did, my marks skyrocketed, and I achieved honors and graduated in the top part of the school.
Wow, that's really incredible. So at what point did you begin talking about dyslexia?
Oh, not for years later. Even when I knew what it was, I still tried to cover it up. I remember giving 3-page reports, and I would have to memorize the reports. And my memory was very good as long as I didn't get interrupted. Because when I looked at a page, an 8.5 by 11 page, it just turned into one big black square. And if I was tired, even the figures on the page moved on me and would start bouncing around. So I learned to memorize things. Writing the book was only one thing, but like when I first moved north, I introduced a whole preventive maintenance program to Terra Mines on Great Bear Lake. I, for the territorial government, opened a regional warehouse, and when government services declined, I closed down 2 regional warehouses. I was a labor negotiator for 7-8 years, and edited contracts, 3 200-page contracts, and negotiated 200-page contracts. And I also wrote a grade 10 labor history class that was accepted in the Q8. And all this with a grade 4 reading ability. And so writing the book, it wasn't intended for it, but it turned out just to promote to the kids in high school that just because they have this disability, it doesn't stop their learning, and you just find other ways around it. For example, at labor negotiations, I would take a new contract in 200 pages, and one of the first things I had to do was read every word to the group and get their approval, and that's what we were going for. Being that a lot of hamlets and that had English wasn't the first language of a lot of people, I would get them to read it, and as soon as I heard words, shift premium chase, I had it memorized by heart, so I could then talk to it. I talked in general and didn't have to really read the particular words that were there. At negotiations, when you negotiated something, commas really mean something. Commas and shall and may instead of will, all that. But you develop ways around it.
Wow. As a person with a terrible memory myself, I really admire that. How long were you how long were you able to manage to hide the fact that you had dyslexia?
Years.
At what point?
Oh, years. And I think I still would have been hiding the fact until it was things that worked out. I wrote the book to let my family know about my two great uncles and their history, because one uncle, when I started researching, was in the suicide brigade of World War One. He fought Vimy, Passchendaele, all the big battles, and 91% casualties in 27 months to that group. He was killed on the last day of the last battle. He didn't get any medals or anything, but just making it through that 27 months when his brigade 200-300 were being killed a day, and he made it right to the end. My other uncle didn't make it through; he got wounded. So that was the intent of writing the book, was just let my family know and kind of disguise it for my grandkids, that they would read history book because they had relatives in it, and they would be learning at the same time.
But was it difficult, though? How hard was that?
I just changed through the years when I found things like when I was given a piece of paper by my boss and say, okay, here, read, what do you think about this? I would say, oh, this is pretty in-depth. I better study it more before I give you an answer. I would then go home and close the doors in my room, like much to this, silent, and read it out loud to myself in very broken English that wasn't good. But as soon as I heard it, everything registered. There's all kinds of tricks. And so all those things I did turn into writing the book, like the grade 10 English class on labor. What I did was take all the documentaries on the Winnipeg strike in 1919 and compare it to the giant strike here in Yellowknife years back, and then put the class together on what had changed since 1919 and what hadn't changed since 1919, like the violence at the mine, the Brinks guards coming in. That exact same thing happened with the RCMP in 1919 in Winnipeg. And so this part of the labor history class was comparing the two of what had changed, like collective agreements got a lot better, but the actual basics of a strike and the violence that can happen in the strike hadn't changed. And so I learned by that. Well, then I would go find information like on my uncles, and I put those together, and again, verbally outside. And editing. I make jokes and say that I can write the dyslexic version, and then I've got to find an editor to turn it into to the handicapped people that read English.
It really is. Unfortunately, we're kind of out of time for this. It's really been interesting talking to you, Ken, though. I appreciate you coming in.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.